Hello. Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Yes. So,
Hi, Amit.
just give a moment. I will just in my chat. So what we're going to do now is we'll start off right like in the previous session that we had done was we had talked about uh, regarding the loops and all that we had done, right? How we can write transformation, looping and all. So those are the things that we had first covered. Some of the functions like range, input, right? Input box if you want to take an input from the user, enumerate. So those were the kind of things that we had done. So let's get started. So any question before I move ahead?
Amit, like R, you'll also be showing how we can import Excel or other data sources and analyze in Python, right?
For that we use a package that is the pandas. So then
Okay.
we will see that.
Okay.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the thing called as the list comprehension style. So what is basically list comprehension? So if I just try to tell you, the simple this the definition over here is it is more about generating lists without writing a loop, or maybe you can say using a loop only. It's probably like a loop only, but generating lists and so I can say it's more about generating list using a little bit of different notation, right? Using a different notation. Okay, so that is something that we call it as a list now. So it is more like like writing a one-liner loop, right? It is like writing one-liner loop to create your list. Right? So suppose you have to create a big list, so you don't need to keep on writing that all the values over there. So you can create that up by using the simple concept of loop. So like for example, if I just show you the simplest example over here, you have to create a list, and in that list, what you have to do is you have to keep uh, the characters or the letters in a given string, right? So I can say suppose x for x in uh, Python, right? So if you will see now, just understand this now. The syntax over here, what I'm doing over here is it's like a loop only. I'm writing x. These are the elements of this list that I want to create for x in Python, right? So that means for all the elements in this word Python. So if I run this now, and if we see the list, it gives me Python over here. Okay, so I get this over here. Now this is my strings that I have got now. Right, so I'll show you some more examples of this. So this is a list comprehension is a quick way of creating your list now. So by looping on the iterations, right? So for example, you want to create a list with square of the numbers, right? So let's try that. So I'm calling it as list two. So I will say I use the square brackets. See why square brackets? Because square brackets are the basic with which we know that lists are created. I will say over here x raised to the power 2 for x in, suppose I am defining a range 0 to 10 or maybe 1 to 10. I want a range of, so I want to generate a list with the square of the numbers in the range of 1 to 10. Right? So if I get this, so I can see the square of the numbers, list with square of the numbers has been generated.
It's taking for 1 to 10, right? And it is computing the square of the number.
So we in this question we were generating the square of the numbers in the range of 1 to 10.
Okay. But I tried on that day, like trial and error method, and if I give the step two as 2 or 3, we can extract the even and odd numbers, right, in the range itself by giving the step size.
By giving a step, sorry, it's a
No, we were doing modulo 2 equal to 0 to find the even numbers. I was just playing around with these step sizes. I was changing ranges from 1 to 100, and I gave the step size. Even then, it is giving the even and odd numbers, right?
yes.
Yeah. Okay. But Amit, is it a good way to extract the even and odd numbers, or do we need to write the logic in real time?
So, I mean, you can do it anyway. I mean, you can use it doing the range also, but right now the intent is just to have a little bit of a practice, but that is also correct. If we want to be using
Okay.
a range iteration, so we can say that start from this and by
Yeah.
step size is that. So that also makes sense. So we can do that
Okay.
also or this purpose. But this over here, you have to do it by using this combination.
Okay.
So what we do is now this is little, you can go little complex also, right? Because you just have to use loop and if connection in the system. So right, Lakshmi. So use there. So what we do is we say list 3 equal to, we will define x over here for x in. So we define the range that is from 1 to 51. Okay. And in this range, we also have to check that I want only those numbers where x divided by 2 equals to 0. Correct? So those are the numbers that I want. If I check this now, list 3, I get the numbers 2, 4, 6, likewise, which are even.
Amit, why this list 3 output is displaying like this vertically?
No, no, it just goes the numbers are big, so that is coming like this. We are saying this vertically, why this are coming vertically?
Yeah.
This is just the numbers are big, right? If you just reduce down this length now, you just keep it
Okay.
up till 15 or 16, right? So it's come down. Now, if you want, right, suppose if I give you something like this, uh, suppose I have a list given to me now. So we can, it's not that we have to just generate it. We can also use this technique when, if suppose you have to convert an existing list. Suppose I have something given to me in Celsius. I have a list over here. Suppose 10, 15, 20, 23. Now this is a list that I have. What I would like to do is I would like to convert this into Fahrenheit, right? So how we do it? So to convert Fahrenheit, Celsius to Fahrenheit, we know we have to divide the temperature by 9 by 5, right? Multiplied by temperature, whatever that Celsius is, plus you have to add 32 to it, right? That is how we convert it into uh, any degree Celsius into Fahrenheit. So this is what we'll have to use. Okay, will you try it? So what you do is if I have to convert this into a Fahrenheit, so I can say equal to, over here we're going to say this 9 by 5 into C plus 32 for C in Celsius, right? So this is how we will be able to get it. C in. So if I now check this Fahrenheit, I can see this now. So let me just do one thing. Just try these questions over here. Or in fact, let me do one thing. Let me just share it over the chat on this. I'm just sharing this over the chat box. Right. So just these are like 3 to 4 questions, not a lot of questions. If you can just try to solve them, right, should not take more than 10 minutes. So please, all of you, try this once. So I'll just be back right now when you just getting these questions.
Hi, can anyone send the file again in the chat? I'm not able to open. I don't know why. It's going to IE and it's not opening.
Yeah, here, so you all done it? You can keep sharing the answers also, like if there would be anything needs a correction, we will do it right away.
Amit, I'm not able to open that file. It's saving as IPYNB and it's not opening for me, and it's going to some PyCharm which I don't know. But
You have to first save this file in that folder where from where your Python gets launched.
yeah,
So first,
yeah, I saved it where all the other files are saved it.
then you launch when you are in the Python this over here. So from here you have to open it up. So
Okay,
from
okay.
this you will be able to see this in the folder. From here you open.
Okay.
Right. So if I doing this over here, right? So we have this first question: use for, split, and if to create a statement that will print out the words that start with S. Right. So how do we do it? So I can say for word in, we're using loop over here, and we have st is already given to us. Just run this. For wording, st dot split, right? So we split the words. Now I'm going to say that if word initial, the first is equals to s, right? Then I would like to print that out. So I'm going to say print word, and there we are. Okay, then like the same question, right? Like because you're asking, right, using the range function. So if we see that
Yeah.
is what we have as the next question over here, right? Use range to print all given numbers, right? So we can do list and we'll just go with range and 0 to 10 or 0 to 11, step size of 2. Then we have a user list of comprehension to get the numbers which are divisible by 3 now. The same thing. So I can say x in range to 51, and we will simply say if x divided by 3 equals to so our next question, go to the string below, and if the length of the word is even, print even, right? So that is what we have to do. And so do this up over here. Same thing I have to pick for word in st dot split. We have to split the words and check that how many of them have the even length. So I'm going to say if length of the word is equals to 0, right? So in that case, what we have to do is we have to print. I can print word plus we can write something like as even length. That's a good thing, right?
But can we do this the same thing in the list comprehension or no?
You want to do it in the list comprehension. So you will be able to do it. You'll have to use the same thing over there also. You can do it over there also.
Okay.
So that will just come in one single statement in that case. That's it. Actually, you will not in the list combination. You will not be able to get this part. You will be able to check whether that is equal to 0 or not. That you will do, but you won't be able to modify that. That
Yeah.
is, you will get that. Okay, so then we have this question over here. This is something that we tried last time also. So I'm not doing this one, but we can all try. Then you have a user list comparison is the list of the first letters of every word in the string below. Right. So this is a simple sign. So we can come over here and we can say let me just pick up the first word, right? So word 0 for word in st dot split.
Amit, if this st string, right, if it includes more special characters, then how will I specify that delimiter in the split?
It comes inside this only. So you specify this over here. So suppose we want to split at something coming at let's call it as t. Just define this inside it. So split actually happens this way only. Why this is going out of range? Something this is getting a problem. I guess. Word 0 is getting a problem. So this is going out of script because I guess because at some of the places, it would be creating this some uh, totals over here, right? These empty strings are getting created, right?
Yeah.
This is what is getting this problem. There's an empty string that is getting created due to which
Okay.
this is saying out of range.
Okay. Can we give multiple delimiters in one split? If it includes, sometimes if it includes hyphen or space or all in same string, how will
So
I
you have to
give
use,
that in?
so you have to use or conditions in that case. So
Or,
basically,
okay.
so shall we move forward? So what we'll
Yeah.
do now is, so we will be starting off with now methods and functions, right? So this is the important ingredient of this Python. So methods are something that we've already discussed a little bit in the past as well, right? Methods basically are called as the inbuilt functions, right? We use for inbuilt functions, we call them as methods in Python. And when we create user-defined functions, so they are definitely functions only, right? The functions that we use, probably, basically that we use uh, to create our own functionalities, right? So that is what the difference between a method and a function is in the Python. So, like for example, on the list we saw append, pop, right? So these are some of the methods that you have, right? So for example, if I say I have a list with me, in the list I'm saying the numbers as 10, 15, 20, 25. These are some numbers that I have. Let me check with you. Are you ready now? Or you bath में इसको करो? तो ये ना हो इसमें ब्रेड बटर है एक दे दो बस 1 किलो एक दे नहीं एक ले लो मैं एक अच्छा इतनी है फिर दे दो नहीं ले लो ये ले लो okay sorry so what I do now over here is we come in this so we have a list over here so we were seeing some of the methods already right so if I'm saying list right dot append right so this is like a method right so I want to append something in this right so if you see now you have the numbers 10 15 25 30 you want to count something right so you have lst dot count that you can use right so you want to count how many times 10 is coming so then it's coming once so these are all methods that we have right so methods I will not be doing it again so what we will be doing over here is the main concept of today would be the functions right the user defined functions that we can create so that is what we are going to explore
So the methods are like readily available functions we are using.
inbuilt functions
Inbuilt, okay. And what is the difference between module and a function? I'm always getting confusions.
what's the difference between
No, module and function, what is the difference?
the module is basically more like set of functions that you have of similar type so that is what a module is so basically what happen is you have the concept of library now library has a multiple set of families of different type of functions right in that also within a library there are modules and within the modules there are functions so basically like what is a function how do we define it so function is basically group of statements right that can be run once or more right that is what we actually understand by a definition of a function is a formal definition right so formally what we say is function is a group of statements which we can run multiple times right that is something that is what a definition of a function is right and they also allow us to specify some parameters right we can pass some parameters if we want inside that function that is another thing that we can do okay and based using those parameters the calculations are done and we get an output in return okay so that is basically what a function is so how do we create functions in Python is that is what we will try to understand now okay so in order to create a function in Python we start with define you will be giving the name of the function okay, this is what you will be giving then you will be defining some arguments right argument one whatever you arguments you want to give these are like parameters right that is this is the structure of how you create a function right then comes your code code comes over here right and finally if you want to return something in that so you will also write that what value is returned by that what value you are returning with the help of that function right so this is basically how a function is created simple stuff right so what we do is if I come over here I'll give you a small example of this so if I could create a very basic function I will say define I'm writing welcome. Now, what is welcome? Welcome is the name of my function. What this function will do, it is going to simply print hello, right? And that's it. The function is created now. So if wherever I will call welcome, right, it will simply print hello to. That's it. Let's try this once. Okay. Okay. Now what we do is, if you have to make the same function and you want to give a parameter inside this, so what you do is you say define. If I say welcome, okay. Now what I will do over here is I will just define that name. Suppose I want to accept a name from the user. Now I will say print hello and the name of the customer. So if I say welcome and we say welcome, a person user puts the name as Amit, so it will say hello Amit. So this is how you can put this up with the help of a parameter. So create a function to add two numbers. Right, so if I have to create this up, so we can simply say define. Suppose we call these functions as add numbers. We are going to take two inputs from them, right? N1, N2. And what we do is, see now I can use print also, right? But rather than using print, we use the function return, right? We should be using return. N1 plus N2. So now if I say add num, right? So I say give the number as 5 and 7. So I get 12. Now, when you use return, so basically return is something which allows the function that can be stored also in a variable, right? Printing is just throwing it in the output, and it also converts that into character group. But when you return means you are something generating it in the form that it can be stored in the form of, it can be stored in a variable as well. Okay, so we should be using return over here. So right, Shweta, so one that we have done, so t equal to this, and you say return. And Deepa, in your case, it is like we should have used return.
Okay.
But Amit, here we don't have to declare, like I didn't declare T, but it doesn't give me an error. We don't have to declare in the Python. Like in other language, we have to declare like T equal to 0 or int T, like that, integer.
Those things we don't have to do. We don't have to do this. So it get automatically declared.
Okay.
Right. So similarly, right, if you want that, like you want to create a function to check whether a number is given or not. So just some small, quick, examples over here, right? So we can do that, right? If you want to get a function to check whether a number is given, right? So what I can do in that case is, I can come up, I'll create a function, and inside that, we will say, okay, we take an input from the number, we take an input from the user, we call it as n, and now I will write my condition on this, that return n divided by 2, n module 2 equals to 0. See. So now if I use this even number, I get 5, it will say false. So this is basically just a function to check whether a number is given or not. Right? We can create functions, right, with a bigger logic also, right? We can create functions with complex logics. Suppose, I want to create a function that should take a list function that takes you want to get a function that takes the list as an input. Okay. And then what it does is it returns all the even from there. It returns all the even numbers from there. So we'll like to try this out. Done? No? So what we can do is, if we start making this function, so we can simply start with define, right? So suppose I'm saying number in so sorry, first we define check even, right? Then what we do is we give a numeric list inside it, that is the argument. So now what we do is we have to go through each number to check whether that number is even or not, right? So go through each number. How do we do that? For that we use the for loop. So we are saying for n in the num list, we pick up each and every number over here, right? And now I'm going to check that if that n divided by 2 is equals to 0, right? If that number divided by 2 is equals to 0, then what I would like to do is I would like to return true, else pass, right? So this is what we can do. Function gets created. So we will use this check even, and I can give a list over here. Suppose I give a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have it on true. No, so you know what we have done is this we have not done, then else this, then we have to say return if this divided by 2. So I'm not getting the outputs over here. So we have missed in this.
You have to append the even numbers to a new list. I tried that logic.
So what we need to do over here is we'll actually have to create something like a list over here. So let's call it as even. Right? So we will create an empty list over here in that case. So we will keep on adding those numbers. So instead of returning this over here, so what we will do over here is we will have to, if I check that number divided by 2 is equals to 0, what we do in that case is we will simply come up over here and we will say this even list that we have created dot append. So I will append that number to that list now, that is n. Okay, else what we do, nothing, we say pass, and finally what we do is we return the even. So this is how we get it. Even equals to this. Okay, now if I will check this, so we get it. Did you all get it? What we have done in this? I mean, if anyone still has any doubt. So we are generating a function in which we are giving the list as an input. Then what we are doing is we are picking each element one by one and dividing it by 0. If that condition is true, so what we are doing is we have created an empty list. It doesn't have any element right now. So in this empty list, I append that item if that is given. Otherwise, I simply say pass. And then in the last, we are returning all the even numbers.
Is it okay if we don't write else part because we don't do anything in else?
Even I have the same question, because for each iteration we are checking the condition, you are just adding those particular n in that list, right? So do we need to give else mandatory?
No, so you can remove that if you want. So
Okay.
else also, if you do, we are just pass only, right? Don't do anything.
Okay.
So
Okay.
pass means to go to that next item. That's it. So you can remove that if you want.
Okay. And Amit, I was trying, like, if I declare an variable and I'm using that input function to get the input from the user, how can I pass that input in this function?
Sorry, can you go again?
Now, if I want to get the list as the input from the user using the input function, I'm just getting it in the variable. So how can I pass that user input in this function as an argument?
I didn't get a question.
See,
You
for a
have,
function, if I want to add some two numbers, I have a block of, I have a function already written. I want to get the user input. So using the input function, I'm already got the inputs from the user. How can I pass those inputs inside that function as arguments?
so that is, we will use that function and then pass those numbers over there, right? For example, if you are saying that A is equals to,
Input. Yeah, I got that. I got the user input. I want to pass this variable A and B inside that function as arguments.
so you just do that over there. Like for example, you will, if this was the sum that you created, so you will say add num and you will write A and B over here, A comma B. So if there were two numbers that you have taken as an input, it will add them.
Okay, and that input function, right? Do we need to write before that function define add underscore num or after that? I'm not getting that.
I mean, you are saying that you want to create a function. That function itself should take an input from the user. Is this what you are trying to say?
Yeah.
So if you are creating a function in that fashion that it takes the user from the input, then it will come inside that.
Okay.
Inside that function, right? So, but if you are taking input as a differently, then it will come outside.
Okay. Okay. If I use nested functions, right? If I am maintaining a global function only to get the user inputs, I can call that function inside this, right?
So variables are basically
Okay.
assigned
Okay.
with the concept of LEGB rule, right? So local, enclosed, global, and brackets.
Okay.
So I'll be telling you that. So there's a rule that we use for it.
Amit, for this list, right? Can you please show me how can I pass this user input as a list inside this?
User input as a list, sorry.
Yeah. Here, check underscore even, you are just entering the list as manual. Instead of that, I will give the input variable. That's it for the list, or how it would be.
So you will just create it over here. So suppose if you have this list with you, so you say A equals to, you create that list over here. So what would be the file? Then you just, when you are running this function, so you can pass this as an A over here. Right, so you get the same output.
Okay. Okay. While getting the input, do I need to convert that as a list? Will that work? A is equal to list of
So
input
you have to
of.
put it in the same fashion, and then you have to also put it in the list also.
Okay.
So you have to wrap it inside that list function because by default it's a text that you get. It's a
Yeah.
text.
Okay. I need to do a type conversion then.
Correct, correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Now you know what we can do is like what we will do over here is like just a small task that I would like to show you, which we will be used in the function also, right? So there is something which is called as tuple unpacking, right? This is something that is asked a lot also. What do you mean by tuple unpacking? So tuple unpacking is basically, right, like for example, if you have something like this, so I'll just explain you. Suppose I have some stocks with me. It's in the form of a list and tuples are inside it. Suppose I have the stock price of Apple, the price is 200. I have a stock price of Google, stock price is 300, right? I have the next one that is Microsoft, the price is suppose 400, right? This is what I have as a list, and inside the list, if you notice, we have the tuples inside it, right? So what I do now over here is if I say for item in stocks, right? Print item. So I get the three tuples one by one over here. What if I want to print Apple separately? I want to just extract Apple, Google, and Microsoft, right? So how will I do that? I just want to see Apple, Google, and Microsoft in the output. So how can I do that? What we do is we will say for, I can say item comma price in, okay, stocks. Now, when you have tuples, so by default, what happens is you can define something like this. So Python code will automatically unpack this. If I say for item price in stocks, I am saying print. Suppose I am saying item. So you get Apple, Google, and Microsoft. If I will say print price, I will get the price. The prices.
How it is identifying the string and integers, like because it is the user defined variable, right? Item and price.
So it is just picking that only, whatever is defined in that. Like these are just my own defined names
Yeah.
over here. So if it is character, so it is picking that, and whatever it is just picking those values only. So item
Okay.
gets assigned to these,
Mm-hmm.
price gets assigned to this. So if I'm saying I want to pick items, so it gives me these values, and if I say price, it gives me these values.
Okay, since you are passing that stocks as the list, it should contain the tuple like this in order to work like
Correct,
this.
correct. So
Okay,
it should have the tuples inside.
okay.
So now a question for you. So this is more like a home task or that you have to work upon. Suppose I have a list with me, something like this, where I have, suppose I'm saying we have work hours, of some team members. I have the data of Sam. He worked for 300 hours, right? So we have the data of Harry. He worked for 350 hours, right? You have the data of, suppose, Tom. He worked for 450 hours, right? So this is what you have as the data, right? So now what we do over here is, what you all have to do is you have to write a function, right? Create a function that takes the list, this above list, as an input, and returns the, returns employee of the month. The particular employee who has worked for the highest number of hours, that is the employee of the month. So it should return that in the output and his number of hours that how many hours he worked. Like for example, in this I can see employee of the month is Tom, and he worked for 450 hours. So the output should come as Tom 450. So this is what you have to all create as a function now. Right, so I can pass this on the chat as well. Okay. Right, so this is where I think we'll take a pause for today. And definitely, so we'll tomorrow probably we will do 2-3 more questions on the functions just for the clarity, and we will then talk about lambda. And then we will be starting out with the libraries, pandas and NumPy.
Libraries are like packages, or
Yeah, so they're just like the packages that we have in
because
the
we were saying it as packages in R, right?
right.
Does it same? Okay.
So
Okay.
okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for
Thank you, Amit.
Bye.
Okay.